Boy, moving, it can really be a big pain in the butt. I've still got boxes that I haven't even unpacked yet. Take this one for example. Ugh. You know, it's been 3 years since I moved into my house, and I still haven't unpacked this box. It's just full of ancillary garbage, you know, mostly just like power adapters, obviously all gaming related. I mean, extension cables, arcade sticks like NES Advantage, light guns. So I thought to myself, what's the best way to get this stuff out of a cardboard box when you've just moved and maybe put it into something a little bit cleaner? And then I thought, well, I do also have a really cool way to kind of put controllers away, so I figured I'd showcase that as well. So again, welcome to an episode of Noob Repair. I believe this is episode 10, and today we're going to be delving into basically where to put this crap. Like, it's not stuff that you can just easily hang up or put away. Sure, there's some people that do, and they make it all fancy, but I just need it out of the way. So here's a really cool way. So what you want to pick up is one of these. This is a clamtare. Yeah, it's made by IKEA. And the nice thing about these is that it's a decent enough size without being too big. I don't know if you could see that, but clamtare. There you go. That's what it is. So this thing cost me $12.99, and it's pretty big. I mean, yeah, you can buy something like this in like Walmart for like $6-7, but the ones that they sell in Walmart are like huge. They're ginormous. I have some of those as well. I need something that's a little lighter, a little easier to access at points, and just something that I can kind of put away. I also take this and, the cardboard box with all the stuff, and I put it over in a spot which unfortunately leaks due to the fact that my house, I have a little bit of a leaking problem down in the basement. That's what she said. So we're gonna fill this thing up because it's a lot easier to just lift this up and go with it than have to move a somewhat soggy cardboard box on the bottom. The box has been taped over multiple times. So obviously your situation isn't gonna be exactly the same as mine, but you know, if you get something like this, you could really use it for anything. So I figured I'd showcase this one because it's the right size for what I needed personally, and maybe you guys have a box of crap that you just need to get rid of. So we're gonna go ahead and start unpacking stuff and putting it in the box. Now, one really important tip that you want to remember is you want to get you know, any kind of store, like, you know, a big bag of rubber bands. These are going to be your best friends. And this is mostly just for wrapping up the cords. I'm going to show you how to do it. We kind of touched on it a little bit as far as like how to wrap controller cords in a previous episode. So I would just mostly say reference that if you really are, you know, really curious. But we're going to use this right here. And, you know, when you've got something like this, for example, you want to wrap it just as we discussed, wrapping it around your hand. Just like that. Grab it like this with a fist. And then get your rubber bands. And I use 2 on these, so 2 different colored ones. And just wrap it up. Boom. Now you're good. So now you can just kind of toss this in here. The unfortunate side of putting something in a box or taking something out is that this will happen, which we did not talk about in an episode. So what you want to do is basically like re-wrap it, and if you just take off the part, you can actually wrap it like to the controller, to the gun, which I like to do on these. And again, it's not wrapping it around the controller. Instead, what you're doing is you're wrapping it together and then kind of just placing it against the controller so it's easy access. And that goes in the bin. Here's some other really wacky stuff. Look at this. A Super Nintendo multi-tap It's got the Hudson logo. It's specifically designed for Super Bomberman, but you can use it on other stuff as well. This one's got a shorter cord, but still, I'm gonna continue with my usual wrapping it. And this one I would not put on, like, I wouldn't wrap it or like against it because the cord is too short. So I would just use like multiple, like one rubber band wrapped against it. Pop that bad boy in there. Ah, a Super NES Advantage. Now, these are really cool, and I actually have a box and manual for this, but I do prefer to not keep it in the box because I want easy access to it. So this is going in this bin right here. And again, same thing, I'm just taking the cord, wrapping it around my hand, as you can see, and want to make sure that you get any kind of kinks out of the wire. Wrap it, there we go. And grab a rubber band. But that one I'm gonna put right next to it. So as you can see, starting off, it's filling up pretty quick, but there's still enough room that if I wanted to add more stuff, I could. Some of these adapters have cords on the other end as well. This is the TurboGrafx adapter. Now, I don't keep my TurboGrafx plugged in at all time because one, it's a waste of electricity, but also I just really don't use my TurboGrafx system that often. So when I do, I know where I have the ability to access it. So what I'll do is I'll wrap both ends of the cord. Here's a rubber band to do so. And wrap it nice and tight. Okay. Now, you've got a couple options with these. Because you may have so many of these with these adapters, you may want to put them in like a Ziploc bag, like a freezer bag I would recommend, because those are really big. You can usually get them like gallon sized. And if you use those, they're pretty indestructible for the most part. So I'll show you how to do that in just a sec. All right, so I've got some freezer bags here. And essentially what you want to do with these is put all your adapters in them. So I've already went ahead and wrapped up all the wires on my adapters. These are all AC adapters. They're just adapters that I've collected over the years that I don't want to necessarily get rid of because, you know, what if one goes? But also a lot of this stuff is getting more and more expensive. I even have a spare 3DS adapter. So this is about full. And you could even mark if you wanted to with the Sharpie AC adapter. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the bin. I've also got a lot of like random plastic doodads and accessories. Things like the Mario Kart steering wheel that my wife won't let me get rid of. The Nyko Perfect Shots. And of course a zapper. Gotta have one of those handy. So same thing, I'm gonna wrap this like that till I have no cord left. And then again, I'm gonna put it against the controller and I'm gonna go ahead and use a rubber band around the whole thing. Remember, I've wrapped it around in a ball first, like a thing first, then pressed it against the controller to hold it in place. Back in the day, the Wii, you needed those, I don't know, I always called them the Wii condoms, or the Wiimote condoms. These things right here. What I did was I put them in a little Ziploc baggie, and in case I ever wanted to get access to them, they're right here. I've got some other stuff, like I replaced the Xbox 360's panel with like a cool little wood grain panel. And so this one I've had for years and just never really had a use for it. Maybe I'll paint it someday or something, that'd be kind of neat. So I'm gonna throw this in there. And kind of the same thing with the controller. I just have a loose controller, plastic piece. All right, AV adapters. I wanted to kind of showcase these, like component cables, AV adapters. You know, this is one for the Super NES N64, and this is one for the PlayStation 2. So same thing, I'm gonna use a Ziploc bag. I'm gonna go ahead and put those in the Ziploc bag as well. And extension adapters. These are super important. I keep a lot of these. But instead of leaving this half empty, I'm gonna go ahead and put some random odds and ends. In order for you to put the Game Boy player in your GameCube, you have to remove this piece from your GameCube. So I always wanted to hold on to it because, you know, let's say, for example, I wanted to pack up the GameCube and put it in the box. And then like a Game Boy camera, you know, just like little odds and ends like that. Here's a link cable for a Game Boy. Same thing, I'm gonna put that in there. You know, this is basically a bag full of stuff that I don't really access that often, but I do wanna have it collected in one spot. This is an RF for the TurboGrafx 16. I did recently get, well, fairly recently, I bought something like an adapter that plugs into the back. It's not the brand new, it's not the original adapter that it comes with, but instead it's just a cable that you hook into certain prongs on the back of the TurboGrafx. And that's, you know, like a cheap, inefficient way to get AV on the TurboGrafx, like the AV picture, because on the back, the pins, it only uses a certain amount of pins, so you can kind of take advantage of that, and you know, somebody figured out which pins it was that it utilizes. So instead of you spending like, oh, I don't know, like $100-something on that adapter, that plugs into the back. Instead, you could just use that piece, which is really cool. Here's an additional power cable that I found while just kind of going through that box, that cardboard box. Now this is basically a spare, like, kind of like the adapter that you would normally use in like a Blu-ray or a DVD player. So I'm gonna hold on to that and put that in the box as well. Like I said, you never know when you'll be in a situation where you may need another cable. So it's always good to have extra. All right, that's essentially it. So here you go. So all this stuff fits nice and neat. I do have more room in case I wanted to buy more light gun adapters. So that's gonna do it for this. Now I may or may not add some things to it because I'm gonna show you something next that I personally use for controllers. I don't know if anybody else is a big IKEA fan, but most of the furniture that I have in my game room is all IKEA for the most part. Aside from the couches, which we got at a local place. But this is where I keep all my controllers, and if you guys didn't notice, I have a system set up basically so that all of my consoles fit in this little cubby. So what I do is I like to put all the controllers right in here. And then that slides right into the cubby, which is really cool. And again, same thing, I take the controllers, wrap them up, pop them in here. You know, TurboGrafx, yeah, basically all my regular controllers that I'll normally use, and I'll pop them in here and then I'll put them away. So that's pretty much it. Oh, I wanted to show you one other thing, which is pretty cool. This is what I was talking about a little earlier, what I use to hang extension cables. So I'll show you that real quick. Also found a couple other things that I wanted to add in, a rumble pack, as well as some additional adapters. Again, another Game Boy Advance link cable, and this is the GameCube Game Boy Advance adapter. Basically allows you to plug into the system, and you can on the GameCube, and you can play certain games with the GameCube Game Boy player or the Game Boy. So you know, kind of like Pac-Man versus, like that type of stuff. Well, that's gonna do it. So thanks for joining me for another episode of Noob Repair. Again, check out episode, I believe it's 3, where we talk about controller wires and wrapping controllers. It's kind of like an additional one that you can check out. And I hope that you learned something from these. Again, all of this stuff that I got is from IKEA or Staples. So definitely look into it. I don't necessarily know if they still sell these boxes. I think they sell something similar. But honestly, if you go online, you look up like IKEA box, cubby box or something like that, you'll probably find something pretty similar. And you know, one of these cost me like maybe $6. So it's a very inexpensive way to store controllers, to kind of put them away, make things a little bit nice and neat and orderly. So if you're like me, you may like doing something like that. So leave a comment down below. How do you store controllers and adapters and cables and all this stuff? Do you use something very similar to what I use, or do you have your own method? Maybe you can teach us a trick or two. Leave a comment down below, and again, thanks so much for watching Noob Repair.